All right. What's up, people? Yeah, let's
It is
go.
awesome to see you. I don't know that everybody else gets to see you, but I get to see you. It's been a little bit. We met for the first time at the Sales Success Summit.
That was
How did
crazy.
we? How did it not feel? How did it feel like we had? It was impossible that was the first time we met in person.
Well, it was fascinating to me, right? You spend so much time over the last couple of years being together on Zoom and interacting and solving business problems and giving each other coaching and tips. I think that was where the relationship started. And I think it's actually this we should be have this be our first topic, which is how do you take these remote relationships over Zoom, these virtual relationships, and turn them into reality? I think it's the one thing that really worked for me was when people bring their authentic selves, even here on Zoom, when you see their home or their home office in the background, that's first of all, that's really meaningful. So I love it when people do that. I think that's a tip. I think when you actually take the time to thoughtfully engage with somebody in other interactions, right? So you and I, we only met over Zoom, but we were always interacting with each other's LinkedIn content, for example, or on the Sales Success Summit Slack. What are some of your thoughts on building those remote relationships? Because literally, when we met in person, it was like, yeah, I already knew you, but
Well,
now
it
I'm
has to
seeing
be.
you
You have.
3D.
Well, a lot of people talk about authenticity. You have to be you. So
Mm-hmm,
like I am what I am, whether
mm-hmm.
it's on Zoom or it's meeting in person, and that authenticity comes through both in the words that we say, the tone that we use, the questions we ask, and the nonverbal communication. So we would interact and chat while we were on Zoom calls. We would interact directly on Zoom calls. We'd interact in Slack. We'd interact on LinkedIn. And
Yep,
when it just felt natural when we were there in person. And I think the same thing applies when you're working with clients. So we can bring that
absolutely.
same level of energy to those conversations with clients so that it feels like you've met many times before the first time that you actually meet in person.
Absolutely. And and it's and some of the tips, like for those of you guys who are listening, like what can you do to be your authentic self? You know, show up, turn your camera on, share sort of the inside baseball stuff with people. You know what, if you're having a rough day, like you don't have to always be on camera, but be on camera for a few minutes and like smile and share, some facial cues and things like that. It's so hard when people don't turn their cameras on. So I always say, like, look, I don't care if you're not wearing makeup or you don't have your best suit on. Like, you know what? It's okay. Turn your camera on. That's one tip I have.
And
You know.
every time I join on a Zoom call, I always have my camera on.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I always have my camera on is because I want the person on the other end to feel comfortable turning their camera on. And if they decide
100%.
that they're not going to turn their camera on, sometimes they'll say something, but most of the time, if my camera's on, somebody else is going to turn their camera on. So there's another tip for you. Anything else to wrap up?
Well, I think, uh, as you get to know the person virtually, um, just like I said, remember things about them. Like, hey, I remember when we were talking on this last Zoom call, your dog was barking or this or that or whatever. Just, be human, be yourself, remember things about people. That's about it.